going to start with Jim Reagan today, who is a compassionate and generous poet. Appearing in 36 anthologies in 15 languages, James Reagan is an internationally recognized author of 10 books of poetry, including The Hunger Wall and Chanters Read, and 3 plays staged in the US, Moscow, Beijing, etc. He has read at the UN, Carnegie Hall, for CNN, NPR, PBS, BBC, and 7 heads of state, including Václav Havel and Mikhail Gorbachev. Honors include 2 Lit Ds, 3 Fulbright grants, an NEA grant, Emerson Poetry Prize, 9 Pushcart nominations, Swan Foundation Humanitarian Award, and a Poetry Society of America citation. He's the subject of the Arena Films documentary, Flowers and Roots, awarded 18 international festival honors and Platinum Prize at Houston's International Film Festival. He directed USC's professional writing program 25 years and serves for 26 summers as district professor of poetry at Prague's Charles University. Here's a brilliant poet, James Reagan.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Harry, for that. It's always a pleasure to be with you and to share poetry. I should begin by also just thanking everyone at the Motion Picture Television Foundation Fund for the generous contributions they give to Harry in terms of keeping this whole program going. So I'm very happy to participate in it. I should begin. As I said, I thought I'd be going second, but I will go right into it. I'm fond of always beginning with something that I tell my students, and this has to do with writing. When you're writing alone at night with no sleep for days, when you're low on money and your stomach is hungry and poor, when you're devoting your last second of breath to your art, remember, no one cares. This is a valuable advice when you go through the roughest times. The point is to make them care, to be able to write. All right, I'll begin with a poem that I just read for the president of South Korea, and came back. I was exhausted, thinking, my God, I'm so traveling and into this world and exhausted. And coming home, I saw my son Jameson was only maybe 5 years old, jumping horses over nights into a castle. And I got down with him and played right through that and realizing we need to enjoy those simple things in life, acknowledge them. This poem has to do with that. If for each of us, a rope could swing us long and light across a widening trough of all that fails us in our lives, I would want to land upon the Isle of Echo, lush with repetition, green with being original in birth, and twice the twin a wave might dance along the scurry. I would want a canyon tall for hawks to carry long the deep tattoo of voices on the air. I would want an ear to hear what words to read again to memory, what verse to carol, thoughts to root. Before the sparrow's flight the mind has taken comes to rest on truth. I would want to hear a vowel repeat in consonance with alliteration's frothy throat. And should the landing fell its footing, I would want to know what inspiration in shorter flight one syllable might repeat, as in the voice the wind gives to birch and linden. I would want the distance to all understanding to narrow just enough to fail at failure. I would want a melody of chances to learn to love again what first I dreamed, free as wonder, soft as touch, and of all things simple, to care again for them as much. Virgil once said that, everything that needs to be written has been written. And Goethe came back many centuries and said, yes, everything that needs to be written has been written, but since no one reads it, we must write it again and again. So this poem has to do with that kind of inspiration for me. I was just arriving back, a reading I had done in Moscow for Gorbachev in 1985, and I remember coming back exhausted and down on the escalator, at the airport at LAX, shot a book by Rainer Rilke. And this is entitled Rilke on the Conveyor Belt at LAX. I watched the people watch this book going around and realized this is probably the first time for many of them where they were actually forced to acknowledge literature. A rick of pages, it falls hardly noticed into motion, and down the track unspined it cycles time between a rucksack and laundry. A book no thicker than a wallet or a comb is the unworthy carry-on newly bought, colliding with a carpet bag or steamer on the unlikely navigation into being where it's not. Each passenger has watched it circle more than once, a bold intrusion into the archipelago of things familiar. There's no fixed point of concentration, no laughter, no elation when the eyes dissect the slow descent of baggage into orbit. As if in taking up an arm strap, we sling a body to the spars of our shoulder. Had Rilke himself fallen, unbound, lying in the United States, he would have passed unnoticed by the baggage check reporter who felt to think it odd or such a pity to tag him at the lost and found. How many miles had his words trespassed? How many cities alive, unread among so many ports of authority? A gold leaf of art, so grand in the pall of memory, it gives the mind encouragement to survive. Unless, unsung like a soldier's duffel duty bound, fear spreads its tarp along the spine of language. Creation can end this way, abrupt and final, like travel to the ends of the world with no intent or vision, just destination. I wrote that a good while ago, but it has to do with the current fears I have about banning of books across this country. But, I remember the first poem I ever wrote was a limerick. There once was a man from Japan who wrote verses no one could scan. When told they were so, he said, yes, I know, but I always like to try to get as many syllables into the last line as I possibly can. I hope I got better after that. I'm very fond also of saying how the anecdote my mother loved about the mother cat who takes the kitten out to teach it street smarts and suddenly run into a dog who begins to growl, and mother cat barks back, and the mother kitten said, or the kitten says, what was that all about? He says, good to know two languages. I was one who grew up only speaking Slovak. My heritage is Czechoslovakian, but we only spoke Slovak at home. I didn't learn English until much later. In grade school, actually, I started learning it. But during that whole period, I went through a lot of times of, how would you say, bullying, I guess. And I remember being always called a dirty hunky. And I had to realize that it was language, the ability to know language, that got me through it all. To be able to write poetry, to respect language as a way to win fights with words rather than with fists. And but when I wrote this poem, A Good Sky, this has to do with the fact that there's so much what you might claim as brutality, not claim, what is brutality across the world and all the different wars we have, or in your own private world, all the tragedy you have to go through. There's always a good sky to look forward to. I'm looking outside my window right here. There's a beautiful blue sky. So this is called a good sky. I show you a good sky. It could hold a fleet of geese above a kite, sipping in a breeze, or foliate the wind with leaves of cherry wood and hedge. It will blanket your sleep with mirrors of stars and the soft undressing of night. It will love you so solely through the Venus dawn, rubbing your eyes awake before the moment's light hangs its spars. I show you a good sky. It will rain its reflection on your one troubled eye, the one that blinks each time a hawk ramps by. I am no one's romantic. No, I am the sky's shadow wish, writing this only to breathe its light. I show you a falling sun, passing like a lover to be near you, allowing no lamp or bulb on a corner lamp to possess you as you are. Look, here I am, the sky's moon down. I will shave a horizon out of peaks like none your memory has ever carved. I show you a good sky. Its broad blue ribbon will wrap its mind around your eyes' imagination and tease you into smiles. Now, celebrate your days among us and let your inspiration play a while. I'd like to read this poem, The 10th People of Beverly Hills. I was honored with Amazon picking it as one of the 100 poems of the century. And it has won many, many awards and recognitions. I might say that there's an image here of Arthur Rimbaud, the French poet, but in my pronunciation when I first read it in Russia for Gorbachev, afterward at the reception, a woman came up to me, a young girl actually came up to me, and she said, "I loved your poem about Sylvester Stallone." And I went, "Oh my God, Rambo. It must have been my Pittsburgh accent." At any rate, you'll hear the image, but it's about the poet. The 10th People of Beverly Hills, and more importantly, it's about the homeless. Faceless on the boulevard of mirrors, north along the flats of Rodeo Drive, stripped bald head mannequins. They come treading on the fears of high fashion, tense on their backs, and on their cheeks the beach black tar of tasteless sheep. As if to dress were not enough, we would slap our backhand slap from their Rambo faces, and all through the supple stick lash wands of their eyes, all through the wind whiskers of fishbone and sour cream, curdled by fame, they see along the deli box bins and fruit stalls of Wilshire Boulevard, the world in the room of their small walk space. They are never certain whether they merely ask to fill a role like memory in some thoughtful dream of place, or live always short of major in some dying minor sort of way. As if to live were time enough, we would have them end beyond their means. Hours long they scrabble onto walls and mirrors the words they would like to leave us, the haunted prints of thought balls drifting out of mind's possession like nostalgia or grief. The world has lost its face. There are no hobo kings or pioneers late to live by. When they lie above the windy steam of sewer grade, streams still and all minds gone, they warm their body folds to sleep. They wake to be awake. In the dreams of many who never took the road to gypsy sorrow, breathing is enough. It is a mistake to feel themselves alone, to feel their sky holds up with darkness. There has never been a need for crying. The dying always say, once we move within the final inch of breath, there is no other. There are a million tenths in the universe with holes we mistake for stars. For those of you, I know I worked in the studios as well. I worked at Paramount for about 5 years. I worked with Al Ruddy and even had the great privilege of being a production assistant on The Godfather when I was there. But the writing took over for me as I was writing screenplays, but poetry was where I lived. And as those of you who worked in the film industry would know, we get used to rejection. We understand what that's about. I mean, I have a film in Ireland on hold because of COVID and the strike we went through. But I got a Japanese rejection slip for my poetry. I thought I would read it. This is how it goes. This is for those who know what rejection is. We have read your work with inexpressible pleasure. We swear on the sacred memory of our ancestors that we have never before encountered such a masterpiece. If we publish your admirable work, His Majesty the Emperor will undoubtedly insist on it being a model for all future writing and will forbid our publishing any work inferior to yours. Since talents like yours emerge only once in every 1,000 years, this would put us out of business. And we must therefore refuse your divine work and deposit it at your feet, trembling at the thought of the severe judgment we shall receive from future generations for failing to include in our pages work of such sheer genius. I'll take a rejection like that any day. This is also for, Flannery O'Connor once was asked, do you think universities stifle writers? She said, in my opinion, they don't stifle enough of them. This has to do with the loneliness that comes with creating, with any creation, whether it's painting, whether it's writing, whatever it is. It's like hitchhiking to the Arctic on an ice floe. That's where they came up with that image. Any ice floe will do, but give it a name. The Paternoster for a start, or the Isle of Latitudes drifting north of Iceland out of Hudson Bay and seas as mixed as the Bering Strait. Choose the ice that's narrowed at each end, the melting equal in duration. Your little nation's future dependent on the center, clearing any final reef the change of wind might make, and deny any possibility that you're drifting, sunless and alone, that you're deranged, confused by the solar burn on the map you yourself have sown, and deny above all else the albatross, whose wings you've sheared as windshields to the eyes. You have a great distance of trust to cross, so little of it bearing on a compass or a star. You have only the dream of being lost a certainty, that in the silence of the mouths, there will come a conversation only you will hear. In that vast indifference of the ice that drops its continents an inch each year, you will survive on solitude, each day or night. When even the moon your eyes betray grow darker as you grow, and all around you dance the petals of the sun, burning in the cold blue of snow. The light that draws you nearer is further than you know. This one I would like to dedicate to a dear friend, Mark Rydell, a wonderful director who had the privilege of having him lecture for me at USC's professional writing program when I was running that for about 25 years. So I wanted to, since it ends and has a kind of theatrical structure to it. It's called Waiting for the Bus at Midnight. This won the Emerson Poetry Prize and several other awards, especially the, Waiting for the Bus at Midnight. A lamppost of finger streams. The moon puffs a cloud past ghosts of autumn. Slips down in a moment's hue and dusty bottom kicks its muddy shoes dry of the night serene. The act begins. A willow sags to the steps, kneeling where the town hall clock whispers sermons to the monk drunk with Sunday talk. Crickets lying in the mist settle to their pillows. Only the car wakes screaming as the dog wags its tail along the center stripe. Bittern's brag indifference to the star and teenage lead wearing slacks too tight and dreaming. When sometimes, as she tiptoes up to meet his tongue, stretches worlds apart, her buttocks round, hypnotic, she does not hear my breathing, but lifts her line so boldly, spinsters in bow-tressed windows like tramps, crippled by the cold, see the silhouette of forms at rest, yet do not hear swoon that staggers in the sweat beneath her breast. I strain to watch the drama hands unfold and kiss her neck. Its naked moles like speckled dunes or shadows stippled on the moon while he, flipping a coin, heads and tails, saddles the bench like Brando, vacant, and overplays the role. That's also for Al Ruddy. In any case, let me move on. The next one is one that's actually in my latest book, The Chanters Read, so I can actually read it from the book. Just came out. This is a simple title, The Weight of an Umbrella. It's going with an image. Before its slick vinyl could wing its carapace out above the body's width of my shoulders, before the tin ribs could arch to challenge the air it had displaced in the sudden lift of sky, before the knobbed handle could power up the palm's easy grip of manipulation to deflect the assault of an Arctic wind or the full force of a child's fisted sword. It had been a thing of furniture, hanging as adornment off the carved oak stair or the hook of a hat tree rack. Before I could legislate the crowning of a cap on the hard breathing of my balding scalp, it had grown to be a thing of need, like a walking cane or a tent, restraining the elements of a cloud's quick temper. It had never denied its role in knowing what history of wind or sun it had rejected, what weight in swallow drops it had to pay to save the ground from the deep soak of grime. You would think it might find a greater need in saving such a brainless head as mine. Maybe I'll read another one from the book, The Chanters Read. Chanters Read is really what I guess, the person blows into that pipe. That is the piper. That's the Chanters Read that gives the passion into the actual instrument. This is called The Gift. Any of you who have those children and know at birth how it is that when you put your finger down to them and they're just born basically, and how they latch onto that finger. The gift. Once you feel that memory is loving you less. The dreams inebriate your saddest thoughts like sighs with no particular meaning. Visit the one thought you've forgotten to recall, the one that breathes like a lapping dog, healing for food, the one with the look of a soiled rag you've forgotten to wash. You've hungered it long enough for such a small fear as believing it will not feed you in return. You want too much out of gifting, as if giving desires a just reward or a yield like counterchange or a seed you've watered into bloom. It may be you're starving for affection, always needing to rake in attention with the last word of a conversation to be your own. Find the one thought you're dying to recall, the one you've been storing in memory like a blanket saved for a child's birth. Ah, that's it. Your embrace, wrapping life, is an offering to the world. This is your gift, not the wanting, but the giving, not the infant eyes out of the womb opening to light, but the yield. The one thought an infant saves to remember is the first touch of your hand as the greatest want to be born. I'll just finish with a poem that I had written for my daughters. I have two daughters, Tara and Mara. And by the way, they own me. I have no chance with them. They own me. This is called The Astonishment of Living. When I teach my course each summer, I'm distinguished professor of poetry and film at Charles University in Prague for 26 years. And I remember, and I live at Václav Havel's home, which was a gift to me to stay there with my family. And I remember watching my two daughters on the Charles Bridge, and how about both of them just moved me to tears. It's called The Astonishment of Living. I saw beneath the spreading elm two talking girls weaving rainbows in their eyes. I saw their lives on opposite shores of the river yield up their buckets to the fall. Every drop was bathed in the fragrant shawls of eglantine. Every leaf in wind rising up to comb each branch sent a whisper out along the slope. Let go. Let go the breath in rain and every strand of light in fall. Let go of the tongue's crow until it sings along with rocks and runnels as if it were divine. Let go of the tongue's crow. Let go of honored sky and earth. Let go the horizon in between. Lose all the sunlit undulations of the season's wheat and sing. Sing out the seeds to grass, to all that breathes into the pores of stone. Let go of honored sky and earth. Let go of the celestial laws of Orioles, breathing out a planet and pulsing out its days. And where the stars at night in showers, let them fall. Recite the moment's song that tonight wind will bring in squall. Free the century's melody as you would a line or burden down a well. Recite the astonishment of living. One reed or willow feeding swallows through a hungry night until they weary of elation. Let all buckets fill, all loss be light. I saw two talking girls weaving rainbows in their eyes, and daughtering in me their dreams, I grew, astonished by all conception, by the frail grandeur of life. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Jim. You've given us the astonishment of living, and your poetry is compassionate, loving, and solid, and you make everything seem so easy. I know you work hard at your craft, and you just really have. I love the way you memorize your poems. You're the only person I know who does that, and it's just such a treat to listen to you and watch you read or recite your poetry. And you're such a complete poet. You just have so much knowledge, and you give it to us, and you just make it seem so effortlessly. So thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. As I said, you're a generous man and a generous and compassionate poet, and empathetic to others too. That poem about the homeless in Beverly Hills, touched me deeply, as did the poem to your daughters at the end. You're a loving man and deeply erudite in poetry, obviously. So thank you very much. And Jennifer has suggested that since you did not show up, that I would read some of my poetry.
Excellent, because I can send back your whole attribution to me right back at you.
I did a few readings with you at USC. You were
right.
Able to let us, when they did the poetry festival, you and some of the other faculty, including, my wife, Holly, who you...
That's right. That wonderful woman who taught poetry.
She was so grateful for teaching there and for you asking her, and so was and am I. So thank you very much, James Reagan, a fabulous poet and great teacher and wonderful friend. And thank you, Jim Reagan.
Thank you.
I'm going to read some poems from my latest book, love poem to MPTF. I wrote it the last 2 years of my late wife, Holly Prado's life. We both came here September 25th, 2017, and she died at almost 2.5 years ago. So this is, most of it was written here, but the first poem was written when we were living in a motel after we had been displaced by a fire. Room with two poets. We are in room 101 at the Dunes Inn Sunset. Holly's walker and cane are to the right of the door. Then 3 pairs of my shoes, 2 Dodgers caps on one pair, a new pair of Holly's navy pants on another pair. Tomorrow, I'll take her pants to be hemmed. I will take clothes of mine that reek of smoke from the fire to the cleaners. This is our second night here. Early this morning, I walked east on Sunset to get us coffee from Starbucks. A crescent moon above, a homeless Hispanic crossed Sunset. Heading back with our coffee, I passed a sleeping man in a nook. He was covered with a mint green blanket. An American Red Cross white blanket covers me. With saintliness, with sainted water, with faraway canoe, with tremulous care, with sainted oars, with sainted light, with joy saintliness, with focus center, with sainted arrows, with sainted circle, with sainted closing, with joining light, with saving hand, with sainted blemish, with circumference blue, with climbing saintliness, with joy eliminated, with saintliness diffused, with sainted hope, with closing hand, with sainted mouth, with joining hearts, with shining road, with long gone cascade, with sainted sound, with sainted search, with saintly doom, with connected light, with sainted substance, with light flowing down. Night
Wow.
light. What is a life but a home and a wife? What is a home but a son and a book? What is a book but a poem and a picture? What is a friend but one who helps? What is a friend but a window and a door? What door looks within? What window takes one away from looking within? What is a wife but a window within? What is a night but a place to write? What is a writer but one who looks within? What is within but a place to be alone with words, with little light, to be in little light and still see words. Words are a home. Words create a home. A home has light within. A word within light bestows home. What is a home without light? What is light without words? What words within bring peace? What is home but light and love?
Right.
Boat nearby. If I were to tell a simple story, it would be light, love, forgiveness. Light, a place to find love. A place where forgetfulness reigns, where new friends are made daily, where meanness, competition, gossip fall by the wayside. A light in love for travelers, an actual caring for the other. If I were to tell a complete story, it would include death, superiority among those walking slowly would be speedsters, lost ones. If I were to be moonlight on a river, grace, quietude, stillness would reign. To cross the river would be a bridge with no doors, no arms to hold, for each reason has an allowance. Each light has a location. Each light asks not for recognition. If I were to tell a simple story, let the love be light near a bridge, a place to live in harmony with water. And the body left inside. And the greenhouse in the circle, and the hat in shadow, and the eye opening blood, and the round blueness, and the pinnacle propping open, and the road over the roundness, and the yellow rose shooting ahead, and the revolving clock inside, and the silver stars surrounding the window, and the river one way in silver light, and corn husks before jet planes, and the hammock beside the pier, and arrows atop the coffin, and a red rose beside Arrow's target, and the tall dark door, and shafts of wheat round her eye, and an open hand beside a fence, and an index finger near an exploding star, and a still bird inside a cage, and a body draped in white, and a hand in shadow above an orange grove, and white feet in river beside the boat, and water the color of silver running through the open door. Holiness that never exists. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in prayer, asking for help, giving thanks, feeling broken. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in touching my wife's body, greeting my neighbors, loving my son. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in smelling a freshly cut rose, seeing a rabbit sit still, a squirrel, lizard. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in speaking an epic's words out loud, seeing a circle, a square, a door. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in being rescued by a friend, given a home in the motion picture and television fund. To be in a holiness that never exists, except in admitting betrayal, vulnerability, grace, desire, hurt, hands, grief, home. Breath of grace. For whomsoever has breath has deity. For whomsoever has deity has goodness. For whomsoever has goodness has worth. For worth has belief. For goodness balances badness. For goodness is personal. For whomsoever writes has breath. For all breath is grace. For grace is given and giving. For belief behests benevolence. For benevolence benefits belief. For whomsoever lives has grace. For grace is not kingly nor queenly. For grace itself is not mystery. Its origin is mystery, though. For priests, presidents cannot give breath. For line of poetry, being breath. Breath, grace, divine, common thing. I've written a lot about trees on the campus. There are over 1,000 or 100 trees and major shrubs, and I learned over 30 of them. And I've written a number of poems about trees in this book, but here's one of them. Each night, trees talk to me. Each night, the trees talk to me. They come to me with graves, heralding laughter, sorrow, longevity, briefness, care, love. They walk the shades, sheltering squirrels, flowers, fences, tables, chairs for the film editors, actors, publicists, directors, sound editors. Trees talk to me of durability, heat and shadow, resilient beauty. Trees talk to me not of new cars, cosmetics, hedonism, egoists. Trees talk dance, shadow, shelter, strength, girth, irregular shapes, branches cut off, branches ever which way, leaves, branches. Trees talk position, growth upward, downward. Trees talk longevity. My favorite tree is an old oak tree over on the other side of the cottages. I just love to look at it. It's probably 150 years old. Love poem to MPTF. MPTF was established in 1921 when industry leaders, including Mary Pickford, Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., and D.W. Griffith, formed the Motion Picture Fund, and the people who had a lot threw money, coins into a bucket for the people who didn't have much. So it's been here for 102 years, and it has a legacy of all that time of giving. And so I'm just so appreciative. I'm one of the recipients of its legacy of giving. So I'm so thankful for everybody who has helped by contributing money to MPTF, including Jim Reagan. And so everyone who lives here is just so grateful to be here. Here's a poem, the title poem, Love Poem to MPTF. Sitting in the Roddy McDowell Rose Garden, I see a bubbling pool, sunlight on benches, tree with red leaves, circles, statues, plaques, roses of many colors surround me. If there is a place more powerful, if there is a place more peaceful on earth, I don't know it, more cooperative, helpful, harmonious, I am unaware. Greenery, lit paths, hands like waterfalls reach out to help, hands like pillows protect a fall. Within white roses, a found home. When we came here, Holly told me that it was like Shangri-La to her. She didn't have to buy groceries and cook anymore. She didn't have to, take care of the house. And she was just so happy to be here. And she wrote a book, which was called Weather. And on her a couple of days before she died, she asked me to continue proofing it, which I did. And so it's just a lovely book, and it's one of her best books that she wrote. My wife's socks. 2 pairs are laid on 2 upraised pillows with white pillowcases. 1 pair is light pink with white toes, heels, and tops. The other medium pink. They are somehow a prayer and a symbol of warmth throughout the night, which makes them not symbolic, but a vessel of carrying, keeping out the cold, which in a way is a prayer. My wife loves socks. Where I sleep naked, she sleeps bundled up. We live in the villa in the Motion Picture and Television Fund. Before she goes to bed, she takes off the socks she's wearing, puts on the 2 pairs of socks from the pillow. When she's done that, she gets into bed, and I lift the sheets and blankets, pull them up to her chin. We kiss. I love you, I say. I love you with all my heart, she replies. She goes to sleep. For light. There's not a soul in this world who does not have a light in his soul, a tabernacle within a world within a will to see light in darkness, in a world of broken wills who never miss an opportunity to break others' wills. With external silence, jabs, hunger for sprawling covetousness, to be in a light, be spare, be quiet, be with fresh air, be within question, study, thankfulness, a willingness to listen, to be thoughtful, to be within fallen leaves, bare trees, a will within light rises, with wings shorn of fullness, to be light, to be leaves in light falling, wings, leaves, light rising. I will find you. I will find you behind a tree. I will find you in a bouquet of flowers. I will find you in a cup of coffee, in a book of pastoral poetry, in an absent love, in a sorrowful friend, in a narcissistic friend. I will find you in an evening sunset, in a shady nook where I practice cornet, in a friend with a terminal illness, in a home without a wife, in a wife who's coming home. I will find you in a leafless sycamore, in a rabbit, squirrel, hawk, egret. I will find you in a journey home, in a friend's compassion, at a table with a poetry book. I will find you in a photo, an email reply, in a forgiving heart, in a gracious, generous act. I will find you within. And I will read the last two poems of the book. 2:35 a.m. Between the night and the dawn are words of gratitude, praise, thankfulness to friends, residents, staff at MPTF for their care and support. Between the morning and night are hellos, nice day, good to see you, kindness in hallways, dining room, a willingness to help ever present, safety, love, may I call it love? When bad memory disposes names, within seconds returns to personal history, mixes casts names with film titles. When the doom of dementia, of fall, Alzheimer's, death is ever present, one out, one in, the saying goes, oasis, the last stop, cocoon. Call it what you like, a safe, quiet, beautiful home among nature. Small miracles brought us here, my wife says. She sleeps peacefully. And this last poem, 1:22 a.m., was written on 6/14/2019. I heard her breathe. I watched her breathe. She breathed Allen Ginsberg's Sunflower Sutra. She breathed Wallace Stevens' complete poems. She breathed Top Deck Dodger Stadium behind home plate. She breathed Recipe for Yeast. She breathed farm wives baking loaves of bread. She breathed writing in her journal. She breathed Echo Park Hills. I heard her breathe prose poems. I heard her breathe asymmetrical rhythms. I saw her breathe her last breath. I hear it now. Thank you very much. And I'm grateful to have read with Jim Reagan, and thank you all very much. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for asking me to read those poems.
So, Harry, with 5 minutes left in the broadcast for your show, I think you should give James and I a few minutes to ask you some questions.
Go ahead.
James, I would love to take the first at bat if you want to consider.
Yes,
all right. So, Harry, you have read from your amazing book, Love Poem to MPTF. But for you, your story continues here. Is there another set of poems? Is there another book in your future?
You know, I completed one manuscript and I'm working on the second one right now. And if I do ever get another book published, I would be happy. You know, when they did that tribute, I read a poem for Ruth Elliott in the cottage. I don't have that right in front of me. This book I read because, you know, it's right there next to me. I didn't want to get up and go to the drawer where I have my poetry, but I write all the time. So I have plenty of poetry. But if I never had another book published, to just have this book right here, Love Poem to MPTF, because I love this place. and it just it's such a grace. It's full of grace. Let's put it that way. And everybody here is just so loving. So I'm satisfied with, and that's what I will say.
James, I do have another question, but I will yield the floor to you.
Go ahead, do it.
I mean, keeping the creative flame ablaze in people, particularly in this community, is a passion of mine. Can you speak to the importance of that? And if you feel, it's a leading question, obviously I'm hoping that you're going to say yes to this, but if you feel that the creativity, the space for creativity that's offered here is enough.
In 2019, Bob Beecher, the CEO, he premiered a half-hour film. I never had done a short film before. And at the Louis B. Mayer Theater, which is a lovely theater. And I wrote him an email and I thanked him for doing that. And he said, Harry, it's nice that you thank me, but you don't have to, because my job is extending the creative lives of the residents here. So this place just offers a tremendous amount. He also, in a video, Jim and Jennifer, Bob Beecher called this place an active senior resident retirement home, because where Jennifer is the director of MPTF Studios, they have so many, she's done thousands. I've been here 6 years. She's been here longer than I have. She's done thousands of videos, documentaries. Every resident that comes here is documented. They did a 4-part, 3-hour, 45 minutes of Holly and Me. And so they do that. They also do whatever the resident wants. The people I read, at the beginning, thanking the Creative Chaos, they have editors, producers, writers, sound people here, professionals who are there to execute what you want. And as Bob Beecher said, and I think it was on the 500 show that you did, Jennifer, this is just part of the many shows that she does. He said there's no other retirement campus in the world that has this facility to, we have a whole channel here, channel 1390 or 9996, depending on which works for your particular area, for people to be creative. And so this place, MPTF, the way I look at it, is the last bastion of old Hollywood. It's like the Smithsonian. There's so many people here with so much knowledge and so much creativity. And Jennifer and her crew and Bob Beecher, they have a loving support of the creative. So they are there to execute, not tell us what to do, but to ask us what we would like to do, and they will execute it for us. So it could not be greater, the opportunity for people on this campus to participate, or to create is a better word, to create and have it executed by the people who work here. So, I could not be happier with the opportunities. That's what I always say. Thank you for the opportunity, Jennifer Clymer. And one last thing, if I may just do a self-referential, Lawrence Terman, who also taught where Jim Reagan taught for many years, was a director of another branch over there. Jim's was writing, and Larry's was producing at the cinema schools. And he came up to me one time, and he always wanted to be on the poetry show. He kept saying, "Put me on the poetry show. Put me on the poetry show." And I did. And he was, the last time he read was on Valentine's Day this year, and he read two poems, one by Robert Burns, and then the last one was Annabelle Lee, and he had it memorized, and he was just fabulous. And so he came up to me one time when he wanted to be on the poetry show, and he was talking about this show, and he said, "Harry," he said, "you're not the most well-known person here. You're not the richest. You haven't, succeeded as well as some of the other people. But," he said, "you have the best attitude." He said, "You're doing what you want to do, what you love to do, and you're getting other people in the community involved." And so, that's the best way I can answer your question, Jennifer. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Jennifer,
James.
thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. Thank you for asking that question, because he answered all of my questions.
Well, Jim is the same way. When Jim was at USC, most programs have like 1 or 2 stars. I mean, Jim was like, Betty Friedan, Holly Prado, Aram Saroyan, Kenny Turan, you would go down the list.
Mark Rydell came down too, yeah.
Lawrence, the playwright, Inherit the Wind. I mean, he just, he was the MGM, the array of stars. But anyway.
I had 6 Academy Award winners on my faculty at one time.
So, and Jim's very generous too. Both of you are generous. And so.
That had to do with, when I got my PhD, the speaker there was a Kennedy who said, if you want to surround yourself, to be the best, you must surround yourself with the best. Jennifer knows this. Yeah. She's managed to do that with you being there and with all the others that she can work with while she's there. So, but I must say, you just moved me again with those new poems you just read. And I can only praise. You've always been a giver, not a taker. You've always been that way. And you've just showed it again with those beautiful poems. Thank you.
Wait, there's more.
Yeah, we have to do the one last major piece of business. Harry, what's up next week?
Next week, this is our CEO, Bob Beecher's idea, who's initiated and done many shows on the poetry show. Next week, we will present a tribute to the late Louise Glick. As you all remember, she won the Nobel Prize for Lit in 2020 with a reading from her poetry, obviously, with Bob Beecher, Corinne Conley, Helen Richmond, Kay Wiseman, and Ruth Elliott.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much. I hope that you have a lovely holiday season, and I hope that we see you back here next week. And then, am I right? After next week, there's one more?
Yes, one more.
The 19th, and then we're off for 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim Reagan and Jennifer Clymer.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Harry.